I'm not an expert on many things, but I'm an expert on what it takes to train a dummy. And so today we are going running for dummies. Much gnashing of teeth went into the creation of the title for this episode. But for some reason, the good coach over there did not like the name Running for Dummies. Why do you like Running for Dummies?
Because it's implying that people who don't know how to run are dummies.
No, it is. No, it's not. It's saying for all, hey, dummies, line up behind me and unite right now, because what it's saying is everybody's pet. Ask Jed this morning. Hey, Jed, when you think about for dummies, what do you think about? What do you think about?
The yellow instructional books.
The big yellow instructional book. I've got about 15 of them in my house somewhere.
Well, that explains why you like the name.
No matter what it is, for dummies. Because I look at that and I was like, you know what? They're going to break it down for me, because I don't need something super complicated. I just give me the fact. Just the facts, man.
I've never read one of those books.
It's like Dragnet. Just the facts, man. That's what we need.
They're really, really pretty helpful.
They are.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah. We're going to be helpful today, too.
We're
going to keep it simple.
Awesome.
Get everybody started. I felt like this was important to do now because I feel like everybody's going to start running on January 1st.
Yes, we are in the new year.
Are you going to run on January 1st?
Absolutely, I will.
Hair of the dog? Am I going to see you there?
I mean, it depends on what's the course record.
Well, they have new courses this year. They've got a 10K and a 5K instead of a 10-miler. I was kind of upset. I thought I would, kind of skip it because they're not doing 10 miles. But then again, I figured a 10K is kind of nice.
Well, so I guess whatever I run will be the course record.
There you go.
And that's the way that works when you walk up to a golf course. Jed, what's the course record?
Yeah, where's the first tee and what's the course record?
What's the course record? So I will not be setting any course records because I am a subscriber to...
Oh, you're not going to be there. You're going to be in Dopey.
Dopey's on the 3rd. That's when I leave for the 3rd.
Well, then you should definitely do that on Monday. Add another race to your week. Come on, Kevin.
What's another 6 miles to add to the 48 that are coming up that week?
Just a warm-up. Just a warm-up.
48, I'm making it 51 if it's a 5K. That'd be great.
His biggest mileage for the year.
Yeah, got there, step in a pothole or something. Man, it's a great idea.
That's true.
That's a great idea. So,
okay. So you're not going to be there.
2024 is here.
Yes.
And we are talking. There are people, hey, this is the year I'm going to start running, but I don't know where to start. And I'm going to say what most people do is they will say, some of you did this yesterday on January 1st. You're listening to this. At the earliest you're listening to is January 2nd, sometime after that. Some of you went out on January 1st or January 2nd and said, I'm going to start running again. You've let yourself put on some weight that you don't need to have on your body. And you thought, you know what, I remember when I was 20 years old and I used to run 5Ks. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to go out and run a couple of miles. And you went out and you put on your shoes, you got to the end of your driveway and you took off running. And you got about 100 yards down the road and you felt like you were absolutely going to die. You turned around, you went back to the house, walked in the house, and was like, that running's not for me.
Oh, no. My person went out and ran 3 miles and is so sore right now they can't move.
Can't move.
That was my vision of what somebody did on January 1st.
Yeah, so no matter where you are on that, now you're frustrated, maybe a little discouraged, whatever that is. Our goal here is we don't want to make you feel like a dummy, because I do subscribe to the fact that I have to have stuff really broken down simply for me, and I love the stuff that is for dummies. We're not calling you a dummy. We're not making fun of anybody. We're just saying we're going to try to bring you something, and especially Coach Katie over there, who is the expert on this matter of how do you start running. And we should take a little poll on this. What was your idea for the name of the title for this?
I didn't really have a good name for it. I was like running, how to start, running, begin here, running, whatever. Like they were not awesome titles. I didn't say they were awesome titles. I just didn't like the whole dummy thing. But you know what? It doesn't matter. We're going to do it. This is running for dummies. So first of all, since this is running for dummies, just going to put it out there. I'm just a coach. I am not a doctor. If you are really overweight and you have not done anything physical for the last 10 years, you might want to get a physical before you start a running program.
And
okay.
I
just feel like I need to say that.
I would maybe go further than that and say for a lot of people, hopefully there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this that have looked up and said, you know, it's time to make some changes health-wise. And I would even go further to say that, and for a lot of those people, you have not graced the doors of a doctor's office in a long time, unless it's to get an antibiotic or something for me to say, go get a physical. Go get yourself checked out.
Yeah, like a physical is what I'm talking about. And I mean, tell your doctor, hey, I want to start an exercise program, and your doctor's going to get really excited, and you're going to be their favorite patient for the day, because doctors actually like people to exercise and move their bodies. But I did just want to throw that out there before we even start, because, you know, I know people get super motivated at the beginning of the year. I see it every year. I go to the gym and I'm like, oh, I can't even get in the gym. There's so many people who I've never seen here before. So, you know, if you fall into that category and you haven't done anything in a long time, just kind of go get yourself checked out. And for those of you who are already exercising a little bit, if you don't go to the doctor on an annual basis just to get checked out, it really is something we all should be doing. And that was not something I planned on talking about, but it is important to have a physical, to let, you know, just talk to the doctor about medications you're taking. Do you really need them all? You know, could you kind of get yourself back in shape and not need as many medications? There are a lot of possibilities there. So medical professionals are there to help us, and I think sometimes we just don't take advantage of them in that capacity because we're always just going when we're sick.
You know what one of the biggest missed marketing opportunities for healthcare in the history of the world is?
What? Uh-oh.
Let me take you back to 1980s. Picture a young blonde with a headband on. Jed's kind of shaking his head a little bit, like maybe he's going where I am. Let's go back to Olivia Newton-John.
Okay.
What's her hit song?
Oh,
Physical.
Let's get physical. So it could be that healthcare because let's get a physical.
I was trying to make
It's time to get your physical.
Prisma's probably going to call him right now and ask him if they can borrow that idea.
I was headed toward a Motley Crue Dr. Feelgood reference.
Yeah, well,
yours is better.
That could be. That would be a good one too. But that just hit me. Let's get a physical. Get a physical,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so there you go. We're starting the podcast about running with get a physical, no matter what you're doing. All right. So, and speaking of that, you go to the doctor and get a physical every year?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, Jed?
No comment.
Okay.
He is.
I mean,
I'm going to now.
Yeah, Jed's like,
shame.
I am going to the doctor. Okay. So, and yes, I do, because I like my doctor. It's fun to go visit with him once a year, every so often.
I'm going to say to Jed's wife, Bonnie's like, Bonnie, has Jed had physical lately? Something don't seem right.
This is the year.
And then it will happen. I can promise you.
This is the year. This is the Hawaii year. So
yeah, the Hawaii year? You're going to Hawaii?
No, I'm turning 50.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what else you get to get when you're 50?
I do. That's why I'm
For
going.
those of you who are questioning that, a colonoscopy.
That's why I'm going.
Yeah, so that's also very exciting. Well, let's get into running here. Okay, so first of all, if you have done nothing and you are ready to start moving, I do not recommend starting with running. I recommend walking. And I would not walk necessarily every single day the first week. You've got to ease yourself into this. Kind of set yourself a little schedule. I like to just get one of those cheap calendars from the dollar store. And heck, you can buy some stickers that you like and give yourself a sticker on every day that you do a walk and just write how many minutes you go for. And really, when you're starting, if you've done nothing for a long time, you're looking at 10 to 20 minutes 4 times a week. Very easy to do. And you can go when it's cold, just bundle up, no big deal. If you have a little bit of a base of fitness, you're going to start with running a little bit and walking a little bit. And by that, I mean like running 1 to 2 minutes and then walking the equal amount, 1 to 2 minutes. So, and you're going to be out there for 30 minutes max doing that if you've already kind of established a little bit of fitness. Now, I'm not saying that's not going to make you sore. That's not going to make you uncomfortable. Your breathing might kind of be labored to start with. And that's normal. Like, it's okay to breathe hard. So that's kind of where you would start. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's a great and walking is much more widely accepted than it was even 10 years ago. I mean, run walk is a huge phenomenon that's come on the scene. Jeff Galloway kind of championed that of run walk. It used to be where people would say, well, if you're not out just running the entire time, you're really not a runner, and all those kind of things. But walking, I think the important thing to remember is this is not just about your quote unquote wind. Of what I mean by that is going out there and you get really winded and running. It's about physiologically your whole body. Running and walking is something that pounds on your body, and your body has to get acclimated to that as well. And so just getting that time on your feet is something that is important, and the walking piece is something that can slowly get you into that. I would say, when you talk about the time, some people have been successful in not just time, but look, some have gone out and hey, I'm going to walk around the block 4 times this week.
Definitely.
And then the next week, they're going to walk around the block 4 times. But one of those times, they're going to walk around the block twice.
Right.
And they slowly just kind of build up their stamina. Usually what happens when you start doing this, a lot of times these things marry together of not only are you trying to start a walking or a run, maybe you set a goal for doing a 5K sometime during the year or something like that, but they're also wanting to drop a few pounds. And so those things go together a lot of times when they're starting those. But no, I think you nailed it on that. You just don't want to jump in. You don't want to jump into this thing super hard, especially when you're coming back into these things and you may be 50 years old and the last time that you were doing any kind of running at all was in your early 20s. Well, you got a different body now. Everything's different, not like Captain Obvious over here. And I'm speaking to you as a 50-year-old. Everything's different. So don't just take that mindset of, well, I'm just going to jump back in and start running. So I think really good advice.
And I think consistency too matters more than exactly what you're doing. Like, if you decide you're going to start running, really getting a calendar and just putting stickers on it or just writing how many minutes you actually move your body for, it's so simple and cheap and easy. Just start with that. Yeah. If that works, then, you can take it to the next level and get an app. But to start with, also, it's just try to go for 3 weeks and do your 4 times a week. And if you're just walking, you can walk on back-to-back days. Once you start running and run walking, I always recommend doing run walk, take a day off. Doing run walk, take a day off. That lets your body recover a little bit. And recovering is really important because it relates to not getting injured. If you get injured, all of a sudden, you are just stopped in your tracks.
And running is tough.
Yes.
I mean, it is tough. And no matter what age you are, I've got a 15-year-old competitive runner that on that cross-country team, there's always 2 or 3 of them got some kind of nagging injury that's going on. And it's just, and they're young 15-year-olds that their bodies are just different and more flexible and all the other things than older people. And so you have to be careful with it. So heed the warnings of the coach there.
And along those lines, people always ask about, like, should I stretch before I run or should I stretch after I run? And the one thing that's good to do is like dynamic stretching before you run. And that's basically like where you can do standing in place, like high knees. You can jog doing high knees. That's not easy. You can try doing butt kicks. Again, not something that I necessarily expect a beginner to be able to go out and, run and kick their butts while they're running. You can do some skipping. That's not easy, but fun. Do 5, 6, 7 skips and take a break and then do it again. You can do like soldiers where you take a step and put your hand out in front of you and kick your foot out so your toes can touch your hand. Again, not necessarily things that I think beginners are going to be able to do right away, but just like do some gentle movement before you start running. Then afterwards, you can do that static stretching, which is where you basically sit down on the floor, maybe put a towel around your toes, pull your toes back, kind of just do a nice gentle stretch. You can sit Indian style if you can, and kind of push your knees down towards the ground. Again, your knees are not going to touch the ground if you have not stretched in 20 years.
So explain why you don't want to do static stretching before you run.
Because your muscles are cold and they're not going to be very flexible. If you think you're not flexible after you run, try stretching before you run. When your muscles are cold, it's just a recipe for disaster.
And 99 times out of 100, when you're standing at the start of a 5K, turkey trot, or anything like that, and there's a lot of people there that hadn't run in a long time, you see them doing the static stretching.
Really?
Absolutely. Look the next time you're there.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, the last race I went to, I guess, was the turkey trot. I saw you walking around with your coffee before the start, but I didn't.
I'm not that big in this. I skipped from the car to the start line.
Right.
It's what I did. So.
Oh, okay. It was. I mean, that was an effective warm up. Drink coffee, go run.
Well, I think there's two different. You make a good point there, because I have become very disciplined in my stretching routines, yoga, and those kind of things. Preventively, knowing that, okay, I'm 50 and I want to do a lot of things. And I know that being mobile and flexible is going to be a key part in that. And so I do try to do it. But let me fancy you this. So is it okay for someone that is just a moderate, runner? I mean, I can run a long way, but not a super fast runner at this point or something. But for somebody that does have pretty generally good fitness and those kind of things, like that turkey trot was a 5 miler.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at that as, okay, the first mile is just going to be a warm up and just going to kind of take it easy and get the blood pumping before you really start trying to push yourself at all. Is that an option as well, or do you still need to do the dynamic stretching before?
No, that's definitely, if you can always start off. I mean, that was a race, of course, is you can use the first mile kind of as your warm up, as long as you're disciplined enough not to like try to win the race in the first mile kind of thing.
Well, I won last year.
Right.
So I wanted to give somebody else an opportunity to win. So I wanted to back off that first mile and let them go. And so in that turkey trot, I was, like I told you, Jed, in that 5 mile race, I was within 20 minutes of winning that thing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I mean, that's.
Did you get socks though?
I did. I've had enough of those socks.
Oh.
So for those of you that aren't around Spartanburg, you don't know what we're talking about.
The first 75 men and women get socks.
Yeah.
It's all good. Okay. So the other thing, like when you're running, and this I found when I was doing a little bit of research for this, and it's not something that I think about often, but your breathing patterns. And a lot of times when I'm working with a beginner, I'm going to be talking to them while we're running so I can make sure that they're not running so hard that they're really uncomfortable. Yeah. That's shallow breathing. Thank you for the demonstration, Kevin. Mm-hmm. I'm sure everybody really liked that too, because that was very loud in the headset.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
everybody recognized that though.
I hope so. Yeah. They did. Okay. So what I think was interesting is I found the 2x2 pattern for breathing, where you're taking a deep breath in for 2 steps and you breathe out again for 2 steps. I think that that's what I naturally do anyway, but it's not something I ever think about describing to someone. But, so you want to breathe all the way in. You want to take a nice deep breath. So you're not shallow breathing like in your chest, because that kind of makes you do panicked breathing when you're just doing shallow breathing. And then they also said there's a 3-1 pattern where you take a breath in for 3 steps and then exhale over 1 step. So I thought those were interesting options or things to think about as a beginner. But really what I want to make people aware of is you want to breathe deep. You don't want to breathe shallow. So kind of simple, but it might help somebody who's just getting going. Then the other thing was talking about form. Because most people don't ever think about learning how to run. Everybody's like, oh, you just go out and run, no big deal. It's easy, which it should be fairly easy. But with the running form, I see a lot of people doing different things with their arms. I mean, we have some people who hold their arms up really high. Their shoulders are really tense. They kind of look like they've got T-Rex arms while they're running. You want your hands passing by your hip and coming up to the middle of your chest. So basically hips to chest or hips to nips is kind of like a nice little saying that I have. My son came up with thumb to bum, which I also like. So when you're swinging your arm back, your thumb should go all the way to your bum. So you do use your arms a lot more and you keep your arms relaxed about at a 90-degree angle. You don't cross them over. You're driving forward, not crossing over. So just something to think about. In terms of your footsteps, it's not necessarily super important for a beginner to think about like exactly where their foot is landing or how their foot is landing. But I will say that smaller steps are better than bigger steps. So you just keep it kind of short. Think about taking lots of little steps instead of giant steps.
And that sounds counterintuitive because if you're long-legged, why would you not be taking big monster steps because you're covering more ground?
Because it's going to make your muscles work a lot more. So we're going more for efficiency right now. And also, like, if you're taking great big steps, you've got a ton of impact that your foot is going to absorb on every time it touches down. When you shorten those steps up, you kind of eliminate that to a degree, which is going to reduce injury. Yep. So shorter steps, quicker steps, swing the arms, keep the elbows in, kind of drive the arms forward. So those are just like some quick and easy tips on running.
On form, let me ask you this on form. What is the number one complaint most people have whenever they start a running program? They're beginners and they're starting. What's the number one body part ache that they have?
Knees.
Knees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Knees or back.
Yeah.
And both of those, I'm not saying that taking shorter steps is going to eliminate knee pain, but it usually will lessen it. And same with like if you're taking great big steps, all that impact is going like right into your knee, into your hip, into your lower back.
And what about the lean?
That is a little bit more advanced, but in general, for a beginner, I would say think about standing tall. You don't want to be leaning back and you don't want to be bending over, leaning forward. For people who are a little bit more advanced, you want to have a gentle forward lean from your ankles, but that's kind of hard to describe via podcast.
Yeah, I heard it said one time that if you think about a puppet and think about a string to the top of your head and somebody holding you up, and that you want that whole chain to be upright. You don't want. I think where people get in trouble, just to simplify it, is when they bend at their hip and they're bending forward. All of that weight of their upper body is being held up by their lower back. They're just and that's where it becomes. And sometimes I have to. When I get further into long runs, I have to really think about, okay, don't lean forward at your hips, lean forward from your ankles. But anyway, I just wanted to. There's a lot of new ones you see out, and it's almost. I think the sensation is they're leaning forward at their hips because they feel like almost that's going to pull me forward. Yes. I'm leaning. I'm trying to grab and pull, and just don't. Just be careful with that. All right.
You can also, like if you're running during the day, you can watch your shadow, which is really helpful to see if you're bending at your hips. And bending at your hips, I think that generally this looks like, the way you would think your grandmother would run. Mm-hmm. Just bent over, hunched over. And most people who are running like that don't think they're running like that. And so that's why, in general, for a beginner, just think about standing up, feeling like there's a string at the top of your head pulling you tall. Keep your spine straight and tall.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. What else? We talked about how often. Oh, the other thing with running. This probably should have been the first thing we talked about, but good shoes. When you start running, like if you've done your month of, nice and easy little runs, it is time to get some good shoes. If you can afford to go get good shoes, go to a running store, not necessarily like a generic sporting goods store. Go to, if you're in the Greenville area, we've got, in Spartanburg, we've got Hub City Runners, and then Gotta Run. And then in Greenville, there's Run In. They're also in Simpsonville, and Greenville, and then Greenville Running Company. And we've got Fleet Feet in Greenville. So I would go to a store with people who specialize in running, have them look at how you walk, and that way they can kind of hook you up with shoes that are appropriate for your foot strike.
Yeah, that is so important. And we are a retailer. We don't sell running shoes, but we do sell boots and work boots and things like that. And I always tell our people, it is so you're true professionals when you go into a store that has. They're professionals, and they can diagnose. I always train our staff of ask the right questions. What kind of work are you doing? What's your level? Do you look at that arch? Do you have a high arch? Do you have what's your instep? Are you a pronate? And if you go to some of these places my daughter actually works Hub City Runners in Spartanburg, and she's had to learn all that stuff. Where when people come in, it's not just, hey, what color shoe? I was like, what color? I like I want a fluorescent yellow shoe. All right. But what kind of shoe do you need? Are you flat footed? What are you doing? What's your, and to be able to truly be diagnosed as to what kind of running shoe do you need?
It makes a difference.
Different. Oh, huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. And it's something that I think a lot of beginners kind of overlook because they go to Academy where the shoes might be a little bit cheaper, or just any box sporting goods store, and they buy whatever color is pretty, and they end up with a shoe that really isn't right for them. And so when you now purchase 2 pairs of shoes, that is definitely more expensive than one good pair of shoes. So I would say, if you stick to your little program for a month, then invest in the good shoes. If you can afford it, invest in them right away. I would start with them, but I realize a lot of people don't want to make that kind of commitment to their running if they don't know if they're going to like it. But, and I think the other thing when people are getting started running is it's hard. It's hard and it hurts. And the breathing can be difficult to master. And, you just feel like you're wiped out afterwards. But it gets easier. And typically where I see the turn is after 6 weeks. You got to have 6 weeks of consistency, and this is 3 to 4 run walks a week. And all of a sudden, you'll have it. Mm-hmm. But it's 6 weeks. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time.
And it's 6 consistent. It's not, I'm going to try this for 2 weeks. Then I'm going to take a few weeks off. Well, I'm going to try it again.
Then you start over. Then if you take time off, you're starting over.
You go back to 0.
So, I just don't want people to give up. And I know Hub City Runners in Spartanburg, they are starting their beginner running program, I believe, on Monday nights. Mm-hmm. And that is free. I'm almost 100% sure that's free.
It is.
So that's Monday nights. And I know that there are some groups in Greenville as well that have runs. If you go to any of the running stores, they can tell you where they are, when they are, what they're doing. I will be doing track workouts every other Tuesday morning. If you follow me on Facebook, I'll be posting those at the Greenville High School track on Tuesday mornings at 5:30 in the morning. So we'll be out there, just as a group getting a workout done. So, and I realize most people might not be ready for that starting in January, but if you're already a runner and you just need some, a little bit of a challenge, you can come out. We're just meeting at the track so that nobody gets left behind and everybody's together. And
don't be intimidated. The running community is a great community. There's always outliers in every community of people but don't do not think that you're going to show up and you've never run before and you're going to come walking up and people are going to turn their nose up at you. People want to help. Everybody remembers, well, I say everybody, almost everybody remembers starting and remembers how scary it was just to get started and do it. So, and that's another great advantage of going into a local running store is because they can put you in touch with the right people there.
Well, it's the community.
It is.
And we do have a huge running community in this area. In terms of coaching, Matthew Hammersmith has groups all the time that do different programs. I don't even know exactly all what he offers, but he's got all sorts of stuff in the Greenville area. And then Hub City Runners, like I said. And then there are new groups in downtown Spartanburg that run, I feel like they run a couple of nights a week. Maybe
Rockers has got one.
RJ Rockers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen it under a couple of different names, so I'm not really sure what it's called officially. But, there is a huge community wherever you go. You just have to find it. And so if anybody wants more information on that, if you connect with me on Facebook, I will always be happy to point you in the right direction.
And for those of you that are listening that are down in the southern United States, that word huge, same as huge.
Oh, sorry.
We're getting you again with your huge. Yeah.
Huge. I have a
huge
little
and
accent,
huge. It's fine. Hey, it's fine. Hey, I own my accent. You can own yours too. So
okay, I own mine. Water and huge are my words that I just have problems with.
That's right.
So really, that's all I have in terms of running for dummies, as we're calling it. Kevin, do you think I forgot anything?
A lot of people are going to be thinking about. Well, I see. Maybe they go into the local running store, or they've seen if you're listening to a podcast or you search up something, you search up running shoes. Next thing you know, you're going to be bombarded with ads for gels and all kind of Jed shaking his head, yes, because he's seen it. Gels, sports, all these different things, tons. You can spend an absolute fortune on that kind of stuff. Is that something that people even need to be thinking about right now? Or do they just need to have just follow a generally good, clean diet and drink plenty of water, maybe take in some electrolytes? Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. I would definitely not recommend that a beginner start taking gels or any of that, because really that's all fuel that's out there for when you're doing longer distance runs, which as a beginner you definitely should not be. And then as far as sports drinks go, typically I like the LMNT, but that said, that has 1,000 milligrams of sodium in it. That is not appropriate for everyone. And if you have high blood pressure and you're starting this program because you have high blood pressure, you probably don't want to be taking LMNT. And that's at the point at which you need to talk to your doctor about how much sodium you should have or are allowed to have. And that's not something I know.
Yeah. No, I think that's, we wanted this one to be, and we will obviously do some more advanced ones as, throughout the year and cover some other things. But, I think that it's just a matter of just the consistency, understanding that when you start this, there's going to be some aches and some soreness and some things that you're not used to having. Your body will adapt to those things. I can tell, I'm 50 years old. I put a lot of miles on this body, and it's sometimes you have some aches, and sometimes but your body will adjust to it. Your body will adapt, and these form things that she's talking about, I can just tell you those are true. I have to really make myself, because I'm 6'7", so my advantage is I can go out and I can walk. I can walk a 13-minute. I can walk I was talking to Bonnie. Bonnie's been training, and she was like, she said, you can walk fast because you're so long-legged,
right.
and it can be as fast as some people are running. But I've had to discipline myself to shorten my stride, work on my cadence to try to prevent injury.
And when you do that, you actually run faster, though.
You run faster and you feel better.
Yes. And I mean, in terms of people running and walking and doing various versions, like chances are they're not going to get injured as quickly. But if you find yourself really sore, an Epsom salt bath is a great reward for a hard workout. Or if you're just sore in general, soak in, and it doesn't have to be an ice bath. I mean, ice baths for people who are a little bit more advanced, yes, they're great. But for people who are just starting, reward yourself with an Epsom salt bath. It will help take the soreness out of your muscles.
Yeah. So I think the Running for Dummies, hopefully you hear that title. We've been laughing about it, but hopefully you hear that title and you think, this is just a short primer to help get me out the door and get me started on my running journey. And I think running is one of those things that can be a journey. That can be something that you're able to do for a lifetime, and it's something that can build community. It can build those friendships and get you connected with people out there in the community. It can obviously help your health. It can get you connected into going and doing a race, and I'm never going to go to a race and win it, but I'm going to go to a race and have fun, and I'm going to beat myself. I'm going to try to be better than I was yesterday. So a lot of great things can come from running, and we just want to be a place that can help get you started. And Coach Katie, we will put all the links, because she can, if you'd like some more, if you'd like some in-depth training and some one-on-one coaching, some team coaching, she's obviously the person that can do that for you. And we'll put all of her information. You can find that at malonecoaching.com always, but we'll put all that in the show notes as well. And anything else you want to encourage people with, here we are. We're in 2024, and people are, hopefully you've been listening to the podcast consistently, and you're not making these wild New Year's resolutions. You're thinking about your goals. You're thinking about habits and routines. Any encouragement you would give them specifically about this new running program that people are either doing or thinking about doing?
Yeah, I think the hardest part of this whole thing, like what makes it really hard, is getting out the door the first time. Putting your shoes on, getting out the door no matter what the weather's doing. Just get out there and do it, or go to a gym and walk or run on the treadmill. Just get moving. Get out the door, make yourself do it. That's where it's at. It's there's nothing complicated about this. Just do it. The whole Nike slogan, just do it. That's where it's at. Yeah. So for all of you who are kind of on the fence on what you're going to do or how you're going to get fit, just get out there and start walking. And maybe once you're out there walking, then start running a little bit. Yep. But we are here to support you. There is lots of support. And I just encourage you to take that first step. I can't do it for you. If I could, I would. But, I want people to know that it is life-changing. So get out there and do something good for yourself today.
All right, folks, you've got the encouragement. You have the information. And now it's up to you. And we want to, hopefully, somebody's listening to this podcast that at some point during this year, we're going to have you on as a guest. And you're going to be telling us your journey and your story of how running has changed your life and help you to become the absolute very best you can be. But like the coach said, it is up to you now. And running is no different than every other piece of life. If you'll do the hard things today, tomorrow will take care of itself.